If you're watching this video, then there's a good chance that you have purchased one of our Clark's Creations All-American made cedar furniture chair or rocking chair, which are instructions for both in this video. Before we get started, I just want to say that at the end of this video, I'm going to discuss the treatment of the chairs, long-term maintenance of the treatment of the chairs. So if you're interested in why we use the treatment we use and how to keep it looking nice and new for many, many, many years to come, then make sure that you find that part at the end of this video. What we're going to do right now is we're going to look at the assembly of your chair that you've received in the mail and the different parts that we have. So it is already partially assembled. So your seat is already one piece, your back is already put together. So really all you have to do is assemble the legs, the arms, and then attach the back to that. And then if you have the rocking chair, then you just have to put the rockers on. So we're going to go ahead and look at that. So as you disassemble your package and take all your different pieces out, what you'll have are your armrests, and you will have your back legs. Your back legs are easily distinguished by the angle on one end of them. And then your front legs, easily distinguished by no angle on either end. And the bottom will have kind of a shape at the bottom that's been kind of rounded. Then you have your chair, your seat itself, and then your back. And then you should have received a bag of nuts and bolts, and we're going to go ahead and take that out. There's really only two types of bolts in here. You'll have a long one with a round end on it that has no way of putting a driver in it. And then you'll have a slightly shorter one that has an also round top, but it has an area that you can put a drive in it. And I would tell you today, we're going to use a hex head, but I cannot guarantee that a year or 2 years from now that is what will be. As bolts become difficult to find and I have to use others, the drive that you use, the head on them, does change from time to time. So don't be, but it will be something easy for you to find. So the only two tools that you will need to operate this is a Allen wrench that fits the smaller bolt with the hole in the top, the hex head, and a 7/16 wrench which will fit the nuts for your other bolts, your longer bolts. So those are the only two tools that you need, and you do not need any mechanical aspects, tools, no electric drills or anything like that. We have continually designed this chair to eliminate those things, and this is our third generation chair, and that is why we're making this new video. If you purchased in the past, say, well, this is different. It is different, and we believe it to be better and easier for those who are installing or putting these together at home. So the first thing you need to do is get your chair. All instructions that I'm going to give you, right hand and left hand, are going to be as you face the chair. This is very important because it'll get everything backwards if you don't get this. As I am facing the chair to sit down in, that will be my right hand and left hand. So I will start with a right hand front leg. They're easy to find because at the bottom of the leg on the inside part of it, there should be an R and an L, which means right hand and left hand. So I have a right hand front leg. I'm going to take two of the long bolts and stick them through. These legs only go on one way, so you don't have to worry about getting them backwards. And then you'll put them through the two holes in the leg, and then there's two holes at the front of the chair, and they will easily slide right down in that. Then I will take my right hand back leg. Again, you will find an R at the bottom of the leg where the holes are at, and you will take your two bolts, the two long bolts, put them in the holes as well. And then there's two holes in the back of your chair, and they will line up just fine. Now I recommend that you at this point turn your chair over. You will need a nut, a flat washer, and a lock washer for every one of the bolts that you just put in. You will put the flat washer on first. It goes up against the wood. And then the lock washer goes up against the flat washer, and then the nut behind that. This is very important at this assembly stage that you do not tighten this down with the wrench. In fact, throughout the entire assembly of the chair, you want to leave everything somewhat loose. You want to make sure you get a few threads on everything, but you want them to be loose because the tolerances on these chairs are somewhat tight. And if you tighten everything down, it may appear that you don't have room for other pieces to go on there, and that's just because everything fits really snug. So to help make the assembly easy, just keep everything at finger tight. So I've put these nuts, washers on, and I've just tightened them down by hand. And as you can see, they're still loose to move around. Now, I'm just going to do the same thing with the other side. I'm now on the left-hand side. So I'll find me a left-hand front. Put it in. And a left-hand back. And then I'm going to turn it over for convenience. Regular washer, lock washer, and a nut. When you are completed the chair, you will come back and then tighten everything down after all the parts are on it, and I'll go over what area to start with when we get to that part. This is really important. I've had a lot of emails and phone calls over the years with customers struggling to get the chairs together, and it was simply just because these legs were tightened down before they put the rest of the chair together, and then it was a battle for them the whole time. All right, so now we have our legs on. You can see that they're good and loose, and they can move around, so I need that movement when I go to the next step, which is the arm. Again, as you're facing the chair, we're going to start with the right-hand arm. On the bottom side of your arm will be an R and an L up at the very top, at the very back of the chair. Now, the right hand and left hand arms are really identical. You can use them on either side. The only difference is that we take the time to find what we think is the most attractive side and make sure that that is pointed up. Now, you're going to go find 4 of the shorter bolts that have the little Allen end in the top of them. I'm going to put them in. The holes for these, you will notice, are a little loose, and that's so that you can get everything lined up easily. So I'm going to start here at the front and just try to get one bolt to hand start. Do not force it. It should start by itself. I'm going to get a few threads on it. Then I come back to the next one, get a few threads started on it. And then, because I got plenty of movement here, I come back to the back of it, the same thing, get a few threads started. If the threads don't seem like they're wanting to start, don't be afraid to wiggle that bolt around to find just the perfect angle, because you're now threading, not threading into wood, but you're threading into a machined insert in the wood. So there's not going to be a lot of angle aspects that you can have. You'll have to get it right. All right, just like everything else, I have it finger tight, still very loose. That's what you want. Now you want to turn your chair around. We're going to go ahead and get the left hand arm, and we're going to do the same thing. 4 bolts. Now these small bolts do not need any sort of washer. They go straight on to the wood. All right, I'm going to start at the front. Get that first one started, hand tight, work good. Move the second one, get it started, got a few threads there. Move to the back. A few threads started on that one, and the final one. All right. Now that we've got that done, we will move to the back of the chair. On your back, and we're almost done. That's how easy it is. On your back, on the very bottom part of it, you'll have the piece that sits on the actual seat. It will have 2 slots in the bottom. That will allow for our bolts to make sure that they line up. So you want to go ahead and set that on the bottom, and you'll see the insert in the wood. Get you one of the shorter 1/4-inch bolts that we have, and find that little insert in there. Slide in there. Again, get you a few threads by hand. Go to the other side. A few threads by hand. That went in just fine. Okay. Now the back of the chair is going to attach to the arm. This mistake is, I don't know how it happened, but this mistake happens from time to time. It is important that the back of the chair, the little slat that goes here in the back, is on the bottom of your arms, not the top. If you're on top, you're not right, and it won't work in the long run. Simply line those holes up, and while it's good and loose, you'll find that to be very easy to do. And then on these, they get just like the legs did, they get a flat washer up against the wood, and then they get a lock washer up against the flat washer, and then a nut. Now, if you were just assembling our lawn chair, you would be done assembling at this point. You just need to tighten everything down. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the rocker. So don't tighten everything down quite yet. We want to make sure that those rocker arms have plenty of room to be assembled. Again, we're just getting that hand tight. All right, now all you just have to do is lay it over on the side. These are your rocker arms. There are no right or left hand. You just pick the side that you like the best looking out. The front of them are the ones with the rounded aspect, and the ones that are kind of pointy, that's the back of the chair. So you just simply take 2 long bolts, put them in, start at the front, and then you'll notice in the back that it has 2 holes in the leg. We hardly ever have a customer that needs to use one of the other holes, but there is a second hole there just in case things are out just a little bit, but you'll find that it'll fall right into the hole that you want. This, just like the legs, need to get a flat washer and a lock washer. The flat washer is always up against the wood. That protects the wood from the tension that you're going to be putting when you tighten these down, because it is important when we do get to that point that our legs are tight. They're not like any other aspect of the chair. They need to be good and tight. That helps keep the chair solid and from moving around. So in the future, after you've had your chair for a while, outdoor chairs, they take a little time to stabilize with the environment. So we're kind of here in Missouri, a medium humidity environment. But if you were to have these down in, say, Florida, the humidity might be a little hotter or more higher down there. So the chair is going to adapt to that moisture. Or you take it to a dry climate like Arizona, you would have a drier climate. As the chair adapts to that, it can shrink or expand as it needs to. It's perfectly normal. So if you find that after 6 months or so that your chair feels like, it's not as tight as it was when I first got it, there's no big deal. Just simply get your 7/16 wrench out and find all the bolts for the legs and tighten them down, and it'll be good as new again. All right, we are essentially done. That's how easy this chair is to assemble. Now we're going to just go back and tighten it up. The first place that I encourage you to tighten things up is at the arms. Get those arms and pull them to where they're going to, the arms and the legs together, pull them to where they're going to be good and comfortable. Start with the first bolt on your arm, the front one, and tighten it down. And as you do that, you want to just kind of look under the arm until you see that gap that may be there kind of close up. And then as you see that close up, and it's good and snug. Now these bolts here on the arms, the ones without washers, they do not serve a structural purpose. They're more of a cosmetic holder. So you do not want to over tighten them, so there's no need to really get harsh on them. After you've got the front, then you want to go to the back, snug up your, now the back one I encourage you to tighten down the very back bolt first. That's probably where your gap will be. But a good rule of thumb is wherever the gap is, when you go to tighten this down, you look underneath your arm, wherever the gap is, start at the widest end of the gap and tighten that down first. All right, so now we have no gap. That looks really good. I've got them good and snug. Again, as long as they're somewhat tight, you don't need to overdo those particular screws. All right, I'll come over here to the other side. Repeat. If you have a power drill to speed this up, that's fine to use it. Just be very careful that the power drill on these particular bolts that I'm screwing on right now, they can pull them so tight that they would be harmful to the arm, and we don't want to do that. All right, come back here, the gap's in the back, so I'll start with that screw. And then the front one. And this takes no strength at all. It does not matter what your physical condition is. If you're strong enough to be able to move the chair around a little bit, you'll be plenty strong to put this chair together. All right, after that, we want to go to the bottom of the chair, down here in the back. We want to tighten down the bolt that holds the back of the chair to the chair seat itself. Again, like the arm bolts, we're not looking to get this super tight. It is not a structural aspect. It just keeps the back of the chair from sliding out, which it does that even when it's not real tight. So just snug it down. And now we're done with those. Now you need your 7/16 wrench. We'll then move to the upper part of the back of the chair. These here, you can go ahead and get good and tight. There's no reason to leave these loose. When I say good and tight, I don't mean to where wood starts cracking, but you want to make it to where nothing's moving around when you're done. All right, then we're going to move on to the legs. I'm going to lay it over on its side. I think it's easier to do it that way. And I'm going to tighten these down on here on the bottom. While you're there, go ahead and tighten down the rocker arm. Now the reason that these bolts have the washers on them is so that you can get a little aggressive with your pressure, and those washers help protect the wood from cracking or marring. All right, there's that one. Simply flip it over and do the same on the other side, and then we're going to be done. And then finally the rocker arm. And there we have it. Beautiful chair, solid as can be, easy to assemble. Of course, if you have further questions, you're more than welcome to contact us, and we'd be happy to walk you through any part of this that you might struggle with. Now, as I said in the beginning, I wanted to talk a little bit about the finish on the chair. First, I want to mention, let me start with talking about the finish that we use, and then I'll discuss how to make your chair's maintenance to keep the chair looking nice in the future. We use called TWP, tinted semi-transparent stain. Now the reason that we use a stain with color is because that's what protects the chair. There are a lot of others out there that would like to just cover their chair in a clear or a clear gloss. Trust me, with this cedar, it looks beautiful. It really looks nice. And I would love to be able to offer that The problem with it is that the sunlight is your number one enemy of the chair. It's not the rain, it is the sunlight, the UV rays. The UV rays will go right through the clear and eventually turn your chair gray. If that's what you're looking for, then the clear colors are just fine. But the clear coat on your chair is very temporary, and you will definitely lose the grain look in a very quick time. And most of your clear, because like I said, I would like to offer clear, the clear will burn off and begin to flake off very early. So that's why we use a tint. I think the tint looks very well and appropriate with the cedar chairs that we use, but that's the reason, is because the tint helps the chairs, it keeps them protected and gives you the longevity of not having to do maintenance every single month. Something else to keep in mind with the type of stain we use, it is not the same kind of stain that you would find in indoor furniture. So from time to time, some people are more picky than others. You may find little runs and little imperfections in the stain job. They're really not imperfections. There's only so much you can do with outdoor stain. It's designed to be outdoors. The longer it's in the sun, the more those little runs might go away. We don't have a lot, but from time to time you might find a run here and there. It will not hurt the chair, will not hurt the beauty of the chair. For the most part, it will disappear in just a matter of weeks as it sits outside. But there's only so much we can do with this type of stain, so we have to kind of choose. Do we give a stain that's difficult to apply and may have a run from time to time, but has high quality UV protection value, or do we use a cheap stain that will look real pretty in the beginning, but in a matter of a couple of weeks will begin to show its age? So we have chosen to go with the higher quality stain, and so we just ask that you be a little understanding of us. We're doing our very best. In fact, the stain process that we use on the chairs is a dip bath. We actually take each part of the chair and completely submerge it inside of a stain bath. So each piece gets an equal amount of stain and stain opportunity as the other, and it covers every square inch of an assembled part of this chair. And we think that it works really well, and we're really happy with it. As far as maintenance goes, each environment's going to be a little different, so I can't say that in a year's time, in 6 months' time, some places it might be 2 years. If you keep your chair indoors during non-use times, your chair might last for a decade. It all depends on what you do, how you use it, and where you live. So what I will do is just give you some symptoms to look for. If you catch the wonderful thing about the treatment that we have is that it's an oil treatment. So it's unlike say a polyurethane. Once you apply it, when it begins to go bad, you really have to remove it and wash and take your chair all the way down to fresh, clean wood in order to reapply. You do not have to do that with our stain. TWP is something that you can reapply over the old. And if you catch it early enough, you can keep the beautiful grain look that comes with these cedar chairs. As the TWP becomes thin, and you'll be able to, I don't really know how to explain it, but you'll be able to see as you can tell the treatment is becoming thin. That is the best time to reapply. When you start to see little streaks of gray begin to appear inside your wood, then you know that you can't wait any longer. Now, if you let this stain completely burn off in a couple of years, your chair will be just fine. It doesn't need stain. This is a waterproof cedar chair. It does not need a stain. The stain is just there to help preserve the beauty of it. So don't worry, I missed my maintenance and now I've lost my chair. Your chair is just fine. And you can stain right over the gray and it'll still look pretty. You just won't have all the grainy look that the cedar offers. And so we want to help you retain that. So that's all I know to tell you is to look for thin spots. When you start to see thinner areas in the treatment than others, give it a quick reply. All you have to do is use a brush. You don't have to get every nick and cranny, especially the underside of your chair. It will probably stay fresh and beautiful for 10 years. But the side that gets in contact with the sun will need to have some touch up with the brush from time to time. TWP, the contact information or the website information to buy that. Most hardware stores in your local area will be able to get it if they don't carry it, but there is an online source as well. Well, I think that's all that I have to offer here today. I pray that you will enjoy your chair, and I know that the time that is spent outdoors will be a good experience, and we hope that our chairs will help make that experience even better. We're grateful for your business, and we pray that everything is well in your life and your family. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day.